everyone, it's Holly and it's time to talk about the Disney Monorail. I love the monorail. I think it is probably my favorite form of Disney transportation, although I do really appreciate the Skyliner as well. So the monorail is the kind of a train-like thing. It rides on one rail, it rides in the air, which is why it's called the monorail. It takes you to 2 Disney theme parks. It can get you to the Magic Kingdom and to Epcot, and it also stops at 3 different resorts. So it stops at the Contemporary, the Polynesian, and the Grand Floridian. It also stops at the Transportation and Ticket Center, which is also the parking lot for Magic Kingdom. There are 3 main monorail loops. So there is the Epcot one, which we'll talk about in a little bit, and then there's the Magic Kingdom one, and there's 2 for that. There's a express one that goes directly from the Transportation and Ticket Center and the Magic Kingdom, and those are the only 2 stops it makes, and it just keeps going around between those 2. And then there's a resort one, which stops at the Magic Kingdom, Contemporary, the Transportation and Ticket Center, the Polynesian, and the Grand Floridian, Magic Kingdom, you know. And I might have that order. I think that's how it goes. I think that's the right order. But it stops at all of those. That I am 100% sure on. As long as the monorail stations are open. Like right now, I think the Polynesian station is still closed. So you just drive right through that station. The way the express monorail works is typically you would take this one if you were driving to Disney World. So you would park at the Transportation and Ticket Center, and then you need to get to the Magic Kingdom. So there is a ferry boat option, and we'll talk about boats in a future video. Or you can take the monorail. Also, sometimes if it's really busy or there's some sort of technical issue with the boats or with the monorail, or maybe like a safety issue, if there's like lightning in the area, I don't think they run the boats. They'll run buses, but typically it's monorail or ferry boat. So you could get on the monorail and it would take you right there. You could also get on the resort monorail, and it would just have longer stops to get to Magic Kingdom. The resort monorail, you can get on any of those 3 resorts and get to Magic Kingdom. So it'll take a little bit longer, hypothetically, depending on where your resort is in that stop. And that monorail does also stop at the Transportation and Ticket Center. So if you park at the Transportation and Ticket Center and like the express monorail has a really long line, you could always get in that resort monorail line. You're just gonna have to stop at the Polynesian and the Grand Floridian before going on to Magic Kingdom. So could be worth it. The Epcot monorail leaves from the Transportation and Ticket Center. So it goes from there to Epcot and back again. So if you wanted to get to Epcot from any of the monorail resorts, so Contemporary, Polynesian, or the Grand Floridian, you could just hop on your resort monorail, take it to the Transportation and Ticket Center, get off, and then get back on the new monorail to Epcot. Additionally, if you're staying at the Polynesian, you are right next to the Transportation and Ticket Center, and there actually is a walkway between the 2 of them. So you could just walk over to the Transportation and Ticket Center and get on the monorail from there. Also, if you were park hopping between Magic Kingdom and Epcot, the monorail is a great way to do that, because like say you're at Epcot and you want to get to Magic Kingdom, you just get on the monorail, get off at Transportation and Ticket Center, and then take your monorail over to the Magic Kingdom or your ferry boat if you're feeling like spicing up your transportation journey that day. The monorail is pretty easy. It tells you when you're stopping at each resort, so you know where you are. And let's talk a little bit about accessibility for the monorail. So the monorail typically has 2 bench seats in each of its car. Each monorail car has like 2 sections in it, and each of those sections has 2 bench seats and then an open area between it. There used to be like bar in the middle of that on a lot of them, but they've just taken that out, making all of the cars now wheelchair accessible, which I think was a good move. You can sit down or you can stand. Also, if you have a wheelchair, they just have a little ramp and they'll put that down, and then you can just drive yourself up, and then usually the cast members working the monorail will actually just like phone ahead to whatever station you're getting off at, so that the cast members waiting at that station can come right up and give you another little ramp, so you can just drive your scooter, wheelchair, whatever off of it. Typically with strollers, you just push them on. Obviously, depending on what your stroller situation is, like you can break it down and fold it up or whatever, but most people just push it right on. Normally there is standing in the monorail in addition to sitting, and so there's bars by the door to hold on to. That's not happening right now, but it is something that happens. It's just like the buses. They'll try to fill up the cars as much as they can just to get as many people moving, especially when it's really busy. And that's also something to keep in mind if you're like really tired at the end of the night, knowing that you may have to stand. With COVID, which we'll talk about, there is no Epcot monorail right now. So all that stuff I said about park hopping and going to Epcot, you cannot do that by monorail right now. All of the monorail resorts are doing buses to Epcot. Which is sad. I love the Epcot monorail. It takes you like into Epcot, which I just think is really like loops into the front of the park and then back to the station to drop you off. And I just think that there's something really fun about that. And it'll come back someday, it's fine, but I do miss it. And they are doing social distancing, so they're not having anybody stand, and they're only sitting like 2 parties to each of those sections. So on each bench you'll have like your own party. So you can wait a little longer than you have been in the past, but in my experience with 2 trips, I didn't feel like it was that bad. But it is, again, something to keep in mind, especially when a lot of the monorail resorts from Magic Kingdom, you have a lot of other transportation options as well. There's usually boats running, and now you can walk to all 3 of them. So you can walk directly to the Contemporary, you can walk directly to the Grand Floridian, and from the Grand Floridian you can walk to the Polynesian. So like, would you want to do that walk at the end of the night? Maybe, maybe not. I don't think the Contemporary one is that bad. It is always an option. That's really all I have to say about the monorail. It is tons of fun. I think everybody should give it a try. It's kind of an attraction in its own right, and it's definitely become like a cult or a fan favorite thing. Like, one of the most famous things is like, por favor, manténganse alejado de las puertas, and it's just please stand clear of the doors, which is what they say when the doors are opening and closing, but it's become like a thing. I know my dad has a shirt that says that. I bought it for him and stuff. I love the monorail. A trip is like not complete without a monorail visit. Oh, and also I find the monorail to be very comfortable. It's not too hot. I know people have said before that like sometimes it smells. I've personally never had that problem, but maybe I just have like a broken nose. I also have really bad allergies, so like my ability to smell is pretty limited to begin with. So that could be what's going on, but it's something I've never experienced at all. I've always been comfortable in the monorail. I love it, highly recommend it. I think it's a pretty smooth journey, and I am afraid of heights, but I'm definitely not afraid of the monorail. Plus the monorail like goes through the Contemporary, like you go in the Contemporary Tower, and that is just so awesome. Thanks for listening to me talk about the monorail, and I will see you next time. Bye!